Hey guys, it's Youna and I'm back today with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read for Asianreadathon, and also I guess it's basically all the books that I read in May as well. I didn't actually get to read too many books this month, but I'm still really happy with what I did. I also bought a lot of books by Asian authors and Asian inspired stories, so I'm just happy that I was able to support this month, even though I wasn't able to maybe read all of these books. I was only able to read 3 books this month. 2 of them I read in like the last week of May as well. I just had a really crazy beginning of May. The first book that I read this month was Iron Widow by Sharon J. Zhao. I already posted a book review on this book, which I'll have up in the cards as well. Just briefly, this book is basically a fantasy sci-fi book with the female protagonist. It's set in a world loosely inspired by various different Chinese dynasties. This book I really loved. I believe I gave it 4 stars in my video. It's about this girl who, she lives in a world where there's a war happening and the society is highly misogynistic in that they use these machines to fight their enemies, but these machines require a boy and a girl pilot. The problem is every time you power up these machines, the girl gets sacrificed. So the premise for this book is that her sister sort of volunteers herself up as one of these pilot concubines who gets sacrificed, and she gets killed, and the main character decides to go after the male pilot that basically murdered her. So it's kind of like a revenge plot in the beginning, but it becomes so much more. She goes off looking for revenge, but also sort of starts realizing how problematic and how misogynistic the society she lives in actually is. Yeah, so I really like this book. I really highly recommend it. I also recommend that you watch my book review on this one. I go into way more detail on why I liked it and why I didn't. I'm really happy I read this one. And for Asianreadathon, as per Cindy's rules for the challenge, one of the rules was to read a book that is like from a different world, and this one definitely fits that criteria. It's set in this like fantasy sci-fi world. I purposefully picked this one up to meet that criteria, and I'm super happy that I really liked it too. It's been like a little while since I've done my book review on this, but I would say like if you really liked The Hunger Games, I feel like you would like this book. There are some similarities there, like so much so that I wonder if the author might have taken a little inspiration from that series in this book. But yeah, definitely if you like The Hunger Games, I feel like you would like this one. Next, so I went a little bit outside of my comfort zone for the next book, and that is I read The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. If you know me, you know that I tend to read more fantasy books, but I just decided that maybe in this Asianreadathon challenge it would be the perfect opportunity for me to read something outside my comfort zone, and that was this book. This book is really cute. It kind of has the fake dating trope in it. The main character in this book has Asperger's. She is very successful. She like has everything in life, great job, money, a place to live, but the one thing she doesn't really have is like a love life at the moment. Basically, she hires an escort to learn about love and I just thought that was a really funny premise. One of the criteria for the challenge was that I was supposed to read something with an older female Asian protagonist in it. The problem was about halfway through the book I realized that I think the author might have purposefully not said what the female character's ethnicity is in this book. Like the main male character in this book is half Vietnamese, half French. So then once I finished this book, I was a little bit uncertain if that meant the challenge, which was why I picked the 3rd book, which I'll get to in a minute. But first of all, I'm so happy I read this book. It was a book by a Vietnamese author, and that also met the challenge in that you had to read sort of like a different cultural ethnicity book for each book that you read for the challenge. I guess my short little review for this book would be, I think I would maybe give it like a 3.5. I would say it's like a solid good. I think halfway through the book I was super entertained, but then the other half of the book got really slow to the point that I didn't really know what the plot was. So like the beginning was really strong because it had a super strong premise. Like she goes, finds an escort, she wants to learn about love, and then it gets kind of murky. Like after that I feel like maybe the plot just sort of got a little weaker after that main point. Despite that, I still really liked it. It was really enjoyable. I flew through this book like super fast. I read it in like the last week of May in like I think like a day or two or something, but it was really fun. I'm really glad I read it, and I highly recommend it if you're just looking for something fluffy, fun. Oh, it definitely is kind of more on the steamy end, just so you know. This is definitely an adult romance, and I think you would really like it if you enjoy the fake dating trope, the sort of like bad boy turned good trope as well, or like bad boy you realize is actually good kind of trope, if that makes sense. I highly recommend it for just like a fun time, and I really enjoyed it, especially for someone who doesn't usually read romance. But yeah, I'm really glad I read this one. Okay, so the next book I read was Crying in H-Mart by Michelle Zauner. Yes, Michelle Zauner. So I read this book next because basically I had finished The Kiss Quotient, and then I realized, I was like, wait, does this even meet the criteria? Because I don't know the main character's ethnicity, right? So I needed to meet the criteria of an older Asian protagonist. So this one also, like, I feel like kind of fits it. The main character in this book is not, well, in like sort of my interpretation of older, isn't like older. I believe she's like maybe in her late 20s. It's Michelle Zauner, who was actually Japanese Breakfast, the singer slash guitarist in a band. And she wrote this memoir basically about her mom. The main character is half Korean, so she's writing about her Korean mother who passed away. So it's basically a book purely dedicated to her mother. So I thought, like, even though we don't have her mom's perspective per se in this book, I still thought it fit the criteria because the book is literally dedicated to talking about her mom's life and like the legacy she left, and just like her thoughts on her mom, and also just her thoughts on like Korean mothers and Korean culture in general. I really like this book. I think I would give this like, I think I would give it a 4.5. Like, if I was being super objective, I would maybe give it a 4 in terms of like writing quality and stuff. It's written quite plainly, I think, but I give it a 4.5 if I'm looking at it more subjectively, because I myself am Korean, so everything I read in this book just really struck a chord in me, and I was just able to relate to every single thing she talked about. Like, she talks about how she would go to Korea in the summer, or like the different foods that she would eat. This book is called Crying in H-Mart, and H-Mart is like a Korean grocery store that you see out in like the States, or it's in Canada as well. It's super cute because she basically reminisces about like all the different foods that her mom would make for her, and then like her own experience trying to like make those foods over her life, and how food has such a great meaning to her in terms of remembering her mother. So yeah, I really like this book. It's a little bit sad at some points because obviously you know what's gonna happen, like her mom passes away, but it's also very beautiful. It's just so, it's so touching to read about a daughter completely dedicating a book to reminiscing about her mother and how much her mother had an impact on her. I also appreciated how this book doesn't really paint her mother in just purely a good light. Like, they had good and bad times. Their relationship went up and down a lot throughout her life, and she talks a lot about her own struggles sort of growing up in the States as like a half Korean person in a quite white area of Oregon. So yeah, I really like this book, and I personally think it meets the criteria of Asian readathon. I think just because, yeah, like the whole book is dedicated to an Asian mother. So yes. Yeah, I really recommend this one. If you enjoy memoirs, I definitely think you'll like this. This is like only the second memoir I've read, so this was also kind of outside my comfort zone, since I usually read more like fantastical escapist things. But I did like this one. I feel like for me, the key to why I really like this one was because of my own experience with being Korean. But I also think, like, if you're someone who likes memoirs and likes learning about different cultures, you would really enjoy this. And if you are someone who is very interested in Korea as well, I'm sure you would really enjoy this too, because I think it paints quite an accurate picture of a lot of the sort of everyday norms that someone who grew up in a Korean household would know about. So it was really interesting for me to see that reflected in a book that I had never read in any other book before. So yeah, I really highly recommend this one. It was super, super good. And now I feel like anytime I walk into H-Mart, I'm just gonna think about this book, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Okay, but yeah, so those are the 3 books that I read for Asianreadathon in May. I wish I had read more. I literally bought like so many books to fit this challenge, but May was really difficult for me because I literally moved back across the country to stay at home for the summer, and then I also started like an internship, so it was just really wild. I didn't have a lot of time to read. I was also meeting up with a lot of friends I hadn't seen in months because I was gone for school. So yeah, reading was a little difficult, but now I feel like it was kind of like last 2 weeks of May was when I got back into the reading again, and I was only able to finish 3 books then, but I'm kind of in the groove now, so I think June will be better. You know what? I think I might show you guys all the other books that I bought for Asianreadathon because I do want to get to those eventually, and this might help with like recommendations for you guys if you want to read books by Asian authors as well. Okay, I'm just gonna go grab those. All right, okay, so I realized you might have seen some of the books because some of them were stacked up there. Just so you know, I have a lot of books by Asian authors, but there were some specific books that I bought for this challenge, so I'm only going to show you those ones. So the ones that I got for this challenge are, first of all, I bought Kaikeyi, which I wanted to get this because I basically walked into Indigo like in the beginning of May, and I saw that this was a new release, and I was like, I need to buy this. Like, first of all, the cover is absolutely stunning, but yeah, I really just like thought it sounded really beautiful. So this one is basically based on Indian myths, and it's by an Indian American author as well. I really don't know much about it, but I really just like, it appealed to me when I needed to pick it up, so I got this one. And then also I got, way back, I literally got this like 2 months ago in preparation of Asianreadathon, and I didn't get to it, which is kind of upsetting, but it's okay, I will get to this, and that's Beasts of a Little Land. I believe I talked about this in a haul video. I really wanted to read this one. It was actually the next one I was going to read, but I wasn't able to get to it, so maybe I'll get to it in June. I don't know, we'll see, but yeah, this was one of the other ones I bought for the challenge. I also bought When You Trap a Tiger a while ago. I don't know if I talked about this. I might have talked about this in a video, but yeah, I purposefully bought this one for Asianreadathon month. I wasn't able to get to it, but it's okay, I will get to it. It also seems like a fairly short read, so I will try to get to it soon. And then the last one, oh, and so the last 2 books are by Korean authors. So the last one I had gotten was also fairly recent. I got this one in the beginning of May. It's called A Hero of Our Time by Naben Ruthnum, I believe that's how you pronounce it. And this is a really random purchase. I basically bought this one because I walked into Indigo and there was like a wall of books, like a display that said like Asian Canadian authors, and I was like, this is perfect, it's like making my life easier. So I saw this one. The cover just honestly really stood out to me. It was so pretty. This one is by a South Asian author. I believe he is Mauritian Canadian, I believe. Yes, I saw this one. I kind of just had to buy it because the cover was so pretty, and I was like feeling in the mood of going outside of my comfort zone, since this one is also like definitely not a fantasy. It's like a contemporary novel. But yeah, I haven't read this one yet, but the author's from Toronto, and I just like really wanted to support a Canadian author as well. It's really too bad that I didn't get to it, but I hope I will soon. But yeah, those were the books that I bought for the challenge. I obviously also have like a million other books by Asian authors that I haven't gotten to yet that I just already have, but that's okay, I will get to those eventually. Oh yeah, and I guess I'll also mention, like, I had planned on reading Pachinko and also The Mermaid from Jeju, and these were just books that actually my sister had, and I was gonna read these for the challenge, but obviously I clearly like overestimated my ability to read for this month. But these two, like, I'm so sad I didn't get to these. Like, I've been really wanting to read them for so long, just because like my sister had, I think she read this one and she really liked it, so I will hopefully get to these eventually. So that's basically it. I unfortunately was only able to get to these 3 books, but they were still very, very entertaining, super good. I'm really happy that I read all 3 of these, honestly. I highly recommend these. They're all so different, which I kind of like. Like, usually I read quite like they're all in the same genre type of thing, but I kind of like how different these 3 were for me this month. Let me know what you guys read for Asian Readathon this month, or even if you didn't participate in Asian Readathon, let me know what you read in May, because this is basically kind of my May wrap up as well. Anyways, even though I only read 3 books this month, I'm still super happy with the results, and I'm really happy that I liked all 3 books a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed me talking about these 3 books and this really short show and tell I did about all the other books I bought for this month. But yeah, anyways, I will see you guys in the next video, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Bye!